Well, a man has come out this week confessing he lost $40,000 on the pokies in just 3 days. Now, sadly, he's not alone. Many Australians like a cheeky flutter or to drop $1 or $2 in the poker machine. But for far too many people, gambling begins as a game. It ends up as a nightmare.
Every year, Australians lose almost $20 billion gambling, including more than $3 billion on the horses, $4 billion in casinos and $12 billion on the poker machines. Research indicates poker machines are so addictive, they affect the brain in the exact same way as cocaine.
Scary stuff, isn't it? Monash University academic Dr. Charles Livingstone joins us now from Melbourne. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
How many Australians are affected by gambling addictions?
Well, at any one time, there's about 350,000 Australians who have a gambling problem. Most of those are because of the poker machines, about 80%. And each one of them affects up to 10 other people, their family, friends, employers and so on. So it's a huge proportion of the population. Maybe 3 million people have some impacts because of poker machine gambling.
Yeah, those statistics are staggering. But is the problem gambling increasing, or are numbers going down because there's a lot more awareness, there are larger campaigns around now, more help?
Well, I think it's fair to say that the rate of problem gambling is relatively stable, but what we know is that fewer people gamble. So those who do gamble are getting into more and more trouble. And the more trouble they get into, then clearly the impact on social services and on the well-being of their kids and their family members is very adversely affected. In fact, a recent study has just shown that the harm in the community, the harm from gambling is up there with the same level of harm that we get from alcohol in this country. So, you know, this is a very serious problem. Australians are the world's biggest gamblers. We lose on average $1,100 a year per person in Australia, but since most of us don't gamble very much, those who do are losing on average $30,000 to $40,000 a year.
Big losses. You wonder how they can afford to do that. Tell us about this court case that you're involved in, which is aiming to try and see poker machines completely banned in Australia.
Sure. Well, Maurice Blackburn is taking a case under Australian consumer law, arguing that poker machines are misleading and deceptive, and that's because they contain a number of tricks which, in our opinion, delude people into thinking that they're getting close to a win when they're not, that they're actually winning money when in fact they're losing money, and it's making them think that, you know, a jackpot is just around the corner. So, you know, poker machines have been developed now for over 100 years in order to be as addictive and as tricky as possible. They're actually conning you every time you put money into them or push the button. And as you said in your intro, the effect that they have on the brain chemistry is exactly the same as the effect of cocaine would be on a cocaine addict. They light up the dopamine receptors and people become addicted to them very quickly and very easily. People who've never had a problem before can end up in serious trouble without even realising what's happening to them.
So you're talking about the music and the flashing lights, all the noises, all that sort of stuff is just as addictive as cocaine, it can?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you see, the machine has two basic psychological principles, what we call classical conditioning, which is the bells and whistles, and operant conditioning, which is the frequency of rewards and so on. But that's just the base of it. On top of that, the manufacturers, for example, Ainsworth Gaming Technologies employs 2,000 people in its R&D department. I mean, that's a massive research capacity that they're putting in every day, trying to put new tricks into these machines. And against that, you know, you've got some poor soul in a suburban club or pub who wanders up to the machine, thinks they'll have a harmless flutter, and before they know it, they've gone through their mortgage, their life savings, and they're in serious trouble. That's the problem we're up against, and the features in these machines are built to make them as addictive as possible.
The latest slogan in this anti-gambling campaign is "You don't play the pokies play you."
Yeah.
Do you like that?
I do like that, and I think it's it's reality. I mean, the pokies are playing you. They're conning you. They're making you think that you're getting close to a win when you're nowhere near one. They're giving you rewards. You know, the bells and whistles go off when you put money in, but you win a little bit back, but you don't win as much back as you put in the first place. So, you know, it's a bit of a con job if you ask me. The real problem is that, you know, if it was people losing 20 cents a time, you might think that was okay. But in New South Wales, you can bet every 2 seconds. You can bet $10 on a machine, and you can do that every couple of seconds. You can put $7,500 into a poker machine in one hit in any club or pub in Sydney. It's huge amounts of money we're talking about, and huge damage in consequence.
So I suppose there are people sitting at home watching this now thinking, they're talking about me. What should you do if you think you have a problem? What's the first step?
All right, well, if you think you're getting into trouble with poker machine gambling, the first thing you should do is ring one of the gambling helplines. I'm sure you've got the numbers there, but they will give you advice and assistance and get you onto the right road. I think the real problem, though, is that we need to stop people getting into trouble in the first place, and that's why this court case is being taken to highlight the problems and hopefully to get some form of injunction against poker machines, or at least to modify their most dangerous characteristics. And I think we also need to look at the way state governments in particular have become dependent on the revenue. Both New South Wales and Victorian state governments get over $1 billion a year from poker machine gambling revenue, and so they're sort of naturally not that keen to modify these machines. But it's really in the interests of the people in all Australian states for the machines to be wound back and for the state governments to take a more independent approach to regulating them than they have in the past.
Charles, just on that, given that they do bring in so much revenue, what chances really does a court case have?
Well, I mean, the problem is the politicians are, they have a strong vested interest. They want to keep the money flowing, and it's not just, unfortunately, it's not just into the Treasury. I mean, the gambling businesses are very big investors, if you like, in political parties. They make huge donations every year, and so some of the politicians have very strong vested interests in this. What are the chances? That's why Maurice Blackburn have decided to use the courts. The courts, I suspect, can't be bought, if I can say that, as easily as some of our politicians can. So hopefully the courts and the judges will determine this matter independently and fairly.
All right. Like so many people will be watching that closely. Thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
All right.
And that stat about for every one problem gambler, it affects 10 people around them, friends, family, bosses. If you or someone you know is facing a problem with gambling, you can call the Gambling Support Hotline. It is 1800 858 858.
Or you can just head to our website. We've got a full list of services there for you, support services. Okay.